Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dylarr's Tactics. Yeah, we're doing another tier list. So it's March. They did not give us a new hero for the start of March, so I felt like now's the perfect time to update the tier list, go over it, tweak it, and share it with you all. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of my more contentious takes, contentious videos. A lot of people have their favorites, you know, especially if they're early game. And they're like, well, my main DPS is Cloudus, and she's doing great. But do you have Iwi or Betty? No. Okay, that's why. So, a couple of caveats about my tier list, as always, is that it's not perfect. It is my opinion only. I am an endgame player in one of the higher top 3 ranked clans. So, my perception is going to be different from your perception, depending on what stage of the game that you're currently in, beginning, mid, or end game. So another caveat that I want to talk about right off the top is that you're going to see some heroes with certain relics missing from this list. Now, if they're rares, they're probably because I've deemed that they're not worthy to be on the list anymore, and they've been shuffled off to make room. But if there's a legendary on here that does not show up on here, say someone like Fire Gawain. For the most part, I have a rule, and that is I will not put a hero on this list if I don't have some experience with them. Like, I can speak to some of them, but I don't like putting them on here. One, because I don't have their avatar unlocked, and I'm kind of OCD, and I have to have, like, my avatars thrown up there. But also, I don't really like to speak to them, although I am contemplating adding some key ones to this list. I will update this spreadsheet. I always update it. I always tinker around with it. It is linked in the description below in my King Arthur Master spreadsheet. All right, so those are kind of my caveats. So don't roast me too bad. I'm going to make mistakes again. This is my opinion at an endgame player. And I was thinking about this today, is that I used to have, like, when I was rearranging it, you see Kay's kind of in the middle there. Like, she was ranked there because when I'm still kind of holding on to that initial early mid-game, you use Kay everywhere. A lot of people said she was one of the first rares you should get up to 6-star. But she is still used, but she's making her way out. She's making her way out. So let's just start it off. You know, I've already rambled for 3 minutes. So this is a long video because I like to do some kind of in-depth discussion around each hero and why, or the rationale for why they're placed where I have them placed. So it's a long video. Go grab yourself a drink. If you're listening to this on a drive to work, you're going to need about a roughly 45 minutes to get through this. So let's start. And we're going to start at the bottom. You can see that I've done a little things differently. I've kind of sectioned these heroes over here off to the side, and there's a reason for that. So we'll start at the bottom, and I have tweaked the names. Now this is rarely used. Now, the reasons why these heroes are over here and they're in rarely used is because with the addition of Clan Boss 25 through 29, dot heroes have become ever more important. And there is a case to use Rosier Wind in Aldry Boss because she can do AoEs, and I do believe it is AoE dots. So the fact that she can do AoE dots makes her a perfect candidate for using her in Clan Boss 25 through 29. And that's why I have her on here in this rarely used section. Yes, you can build her up. Yes, she does do good things in Aldry Clan Boss, but outside of that, you don't really want to use her wind relic. That's kind of like the niche time that you're going to pull one out, and it's nice to have, but you really don't need her. Then we got Boars, and this is Boars Fire. So I think Boars, for a tank build, is best with Ice. But we have started to see Boars Fire used because you can use him in the Podridge dungeon with Anya Fire, because he has a thing in his kit where he grants, he's the only person that does this, but he gives crit or counter attack damage up too. So that's 40% more counter attack damage that he's going to give to your Anya. So I have seen him used there, and I've also seen him used in Clan Boss again. So for, say, like the dragon, Yiskelhaig, in 25 through to 30, with the limbs up, what you can do is you can chuck boars on that team, and fire works as, or I guess ice would work as well because it's a fire dragon. But the ice works because he's going to give counterattack damage up to Anya, and you're going to be able to do more damage to the limbs of the dragon. So Boars is coming out there. I have also seen him in a PvP team because he's got some speed mechanics in his kit that if you make him really, really fast, he gives himself an automatic 20 or 30% attack gauge. So he's kind of like his own speed lead everywhere you're going to use him as well. So I've seen him used in the Podrish dungeon. I've seen him used in Clan Boss, Yaskelhaig. I've also seen him used in PvP. So he is definitely a viable tool. He's just rarely used. He's a nice to have, not a must have. And then we got Ralph. I've never experienced the Ralph Wrecking Machine, but I have seen more and more rumblings of this being used in Forbidden Dungeon, in other places. So that's why I just included him on here. But if I was going to really shuffle this, I would probably put Boars ahead of him in the rarely used. And then these ones over here, we're not even going to discuss these. But can you use these? Yes. Should you use these over something else? No. So I'm just kind of chucking relics. Like I just got Tristan Fire Relic. You're not going to use it anywhere. So all of these heroes down here are rarely used, really not used relics on the heroes. You know, there's an argument for Florentius Fire in Cat, but it's a weak one that I don't really fully understand. There are some aficionados out there that are Florentius, I don't want to say simps, that's kind of a crude word, but they're like aficionados on Florentius, and they advocate for him, but I haven't seen it. I haven't really seen it, so I'm not going to comment too much more on that. Let's go into the dungeon category. Okay, so over here on the right, the reason why I got old, what's his name? I can't remember his name anymore. I knew it this morning, but I don't remember it now. The pretty dude with the blonde hair and the old school haircut. So why can't I remember? It's like Christmas or something. I don't know. This guy. So the reason why he's on here is because he does have a use in high-level Forbidden Dungeon. I had a use in Forbidden Dungeon Hard Season 1, and I've also seen him used in Forbidden Dungeon Season 2 this season. I have not got him to work personally, but I'm including him on here just so I can basically have this discussion with you that I'm having right now. Wind Cloudus. There's someone in the comment section that's going to be very happy because they advocated for Wind Cloudus, and on those Forbidden Dungeon hard levels where you can need a wind hero, where she's good is Wind Cloudus is kind of like a cheaper version of Fire Morgana or Morgan, because her S3 does AoE attack gauge pushback. So she kind of does that little trick. But she's also an attacker, so she's going to do a little bit more damage. So that's kind of cool. So I have included her on that list because I did see her pop up in screenshots of people using her in storm required stages in Forbidden Dungeon Hard. Now, Lot Wind, I have seen him briefly used for the same reason. And some people advocate for Lot Wind or Storm. I'm going to call it Wind. I'm sorry. Just be lucky I don't call it grass or green. But Lot Wind can also be kind of used in the same situation. I prefer fire or frost. Wind is kind of like the happy medium between the two. And then Bedivere. Wow, my brain is stalling this morning. Bedivere. So Bedivere Wind, I use Bedivere Wind, or I have used Bedivere Wind in that exact same function. The Forbidden Dungeon hard wind requirement dungeons or stages. And that's the only place I've used him. That's the only place I used him. So I'm including him right there. That's why they're separated away. Now, Bodwin I had initially, I had him right there. But because I wanted to include the Taunt Knight, the Taunt Stealth Knight, because Bodwin is also used in high-level Forbidden Dungeon stages. But he's also coming out. He's been there's been rumblings on the street, and there's been sightings of Bodwin being used in PvP as well. So I kind of stuck him at the back here, up in the PvP line, because it is coming out that you can make a pretty tanky team in Arena for PvP using old Grandpa Bodwin. So that's why he's right there. Then for the rest of the people in Dungeon category, Bulk and Ban. Yeah, Bulk. No, not Bulk and Ban. Bulk and Alan. Sorry, Alan. I think this is Alan. For very, 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 very early game players, you can go back and you can find the videos. I do believe the majority of them are over on Stu Gaming's channel. You can create an infinite loop with the mummy guy. I don't know why. All these old names of units that I haven't used forever. Dejaret. You can make an infinite loop with Dejaret, Bulk, and Alan. I think this is Alan. Oh, this is Alan. You can make it like an infinite loop, and you can just, it takes forever, but you can clear lots of dungeon stages with these three. I'm not going to explain the mechanic. That's why I said go watch Stu Gaming's videos, and you'll get a sense for it. But Ban, or not a Ban, I don't know why I keep calling him Ban. Alan here. Alan can also be used as a substitute. He's basically a weak level Claudus, Fire Claudus. Where is she? Right there. And you can use Alan in the Tarask dungeon up into even stage 10, I do believe. I think I saw this mechanic with Bulk and Alan and Morgan used on Cat, Tarask 10. So that's the only reason why they're still on this tier list. Dejaret, Bulk, and Alan are the only three uncommons that grace this list. Yes, I know. Don't be screaming at me. There's other uses of some other uncommons, but I've not really sure of how that works, and I've not had experience with it, so I'm not gonna discuss it here. Oh, this is the only place I could really put Wind Gilroy, is because he does have a kind of like a niche use in Aldry dungeons. I've heard discussion of him being used in, and I actually have seen him used this season in Aldry Clan Boss 25 to 29. But I'm not sold on him yet. But because he can be used, I have him just down here slotted into the dungeon section. And it has to be the wind one. The ice and the fire ones aren't good. They're not good. So wind is his best relic. And even in his best relic, he has very limited use. Now, Isolde and Dejaret are here. You should know why. They are here because they make Gorgos all the way from 0 to 10. Easy mode. Easy mode. You can go watch my Gorgos video. You can probably find at least 23 other Gorgos videos highlighting why they're good. You know, Isolde is a weak version of Vivian, given the fact that she heals and she cleanses dots and she applies dots. So if you don't have Vivian, you can use Isolde in her place for Gorgos dungeon. There's a lot of heroes in this game. Alan, as being a weak version of Claudus, Isolde is a weak version of Vivian. Kay is kind of a weak version of Tristan, and so on. There's a lot of these heroes that are kind of modeled similarly, but they're upgrades with the tier, or with the level upgrade, or quality upgrade, I should say. So yeah, these two can be, these two make Gorgos 10 easy. Just very, very, very easy for new players. You can go check out the videos for that. And then Akalan. So Akalan is probably still for dungeon purposes, still one of the most highly used rares. Obviously, Aldry, you want to run Akalan as the lead. In Aldry, I ran him a bunch, or I don't know if it's a him or her. Sorry. I used Akalan this morning when I was farming some Aldry. They are still the lead in every one of my Aldry farming teams for normal dungeon Aldry. So that's why they get the top spot on the dungeon section of this tier list. So we already talked about Bodwin. Now for PvP. There are uses, although they are small, for Old Florentius here in PvP. I kind of like Frost because you can basically 100% chance stun lock or freeze lock a hero. So I have used them in PvP. It was fun to use. Wind has an AoE silence on the S3 that can be handy. But they're really at the bottom end, the low bottom end of PvP viability. And you're not ever going to use them if you are going against a high-level PvP team. Because once you get to high-level PvP, you're really kind of pigeonholed into stuff you can use effectively at the upper echelons of the PvP rankings. Gawain, why is Gawain a PvP hero? Well, Gawain in general is immune to CCs at the beginning of the battle, and he can hit hard. The issue is you do kind of need him max. Now, Gawain doesn't really get the benefit of his, or you're not really going to use him until, I would say, C8. It's unfortunate, and that's not a hero that you're ever going to focus farm. Gawain, you're just going to get kind of copies passively, but once you do get a Gawain up to C8, then he starts to do some interesting things. Like if I had a Fire Gawain, which I do not, I would probably put him right here, right here, right in between Arthur and Cloudus. Strictly because of his ability to execute, although you don't have to have fire, but fire's the one that hits really hard. So fire kind of makes him like a nuker. So he would be right in here with these two nukers, I would say, because that's kind of his role. And that's where he would be. Maybe I might slot his icon in there. I'll come up with a fancy little placeholder. So that's why Gawain is up in here in PvP. He's a PvP for his anti-CC, but he's more known as a nuker. So that's, well, I'm just going to probably put those like that. Now, Sigrun Wind. Why is Sigrun Wind a PvP unit? Because Sigrun Wind, she doesn't do the AoE on her S3 like her fire variant does. What she does in Wind is she reduces the turn meter on a single target and hits really hard. Her S3 has a really big, like almost 400% attack multiplier. So she can hit really hard, and she can reduce that target's turn meter, which lets you kind of lock down a target while doing a lot of damage to them. Obviously, if she's Wind, you want to take out like a not fire unit. You want to take out an ice unit. I'm looking at you, Frost, Ice Frost, Anya, or someone like a Bedivere, or a Iwaret, if they don't nuke you first. But there are some uses for a Wind/Storm Sigrun in PvP. Lot Frost. I actually have Lot Frost on one of my Clan v Clan PvP teams. Lot he's a Vigor battery. You know what his kit is. We don't want to discuss it too much, but he gives Vigor and he taketh away Vigor on both sides of the battlefield. And if you spam his S3, he gives a bunch of bonuses for PvP to your whole team. Allows them to freeze, allows them to do some bad things. So Lot, I do use him in PvP. He is actually on my Frost Lance team, who is right beside him. So, but Lot can be used. He does have a place in PvP, and I've seen him in some high-level teams, even in the Coliseum, where once it gets rolling, it's not stopping. So Lot Frost, yeah, he's a decent, okay PvP unit, but once you get to the tippity top of the tier of PvP, kind of falls off. You don't really want to use him. You want to use some other units. Frost Lance. Oh, Frost Lancelot. Why is he a PvP unit? Because on his S3, he doesn't apply dots. He does an AoE freeze, which is a CC. And he's a speed lead. He's a speed lead everywhere, but you put him on a team and you put him in a speed tower in Clan v Clan, You put him with Frost or Lot to give the team some vigor. Throw a Clarison on that team to speed him up even more. You can do some cool things. Throw a Bedivere on that team. It's a good team. I like it. So Frost Lance, definitely a good unit in PvP. You can use him elsewhere? Not really. Not really. The fire variant is the more dot heavy variant, and that's the one you want to use, and we'll discuss that. But yeah, Frost definitely, that his place is PvP. Fire Turin. Okay, you've all probably experienced going up against Fire Turin. If she gets off that S2 in PvP and ramps up the evasion on the teams, you're not touching them. You're not touching them. I don't care how much hit accuracy you have on him. You're not touching them. It is annoying. And it is a very viable stall tank team in PvP. Or she's an addition to that stall tank team. I like Fire Turin. For a while there, it was briefly meta. And then the Serpents just kind of took over. And speaking of Serpents, Ceres. Now, I'm not saying Ceres does not have some uses outside of PvP, but they are limited. Like, she reduces damage. She does all her kit. But her lead was specifically made for Clan War, because there are only 2 speed leads in Clan War: Lancelot and Ceres. Now, she's basically just a PvP speed lead. And once you get her up to C9, she's the fastest character in the game, fastest base speed. You can get her up to 440 speed is the higher level. I don't think anybody's at 440 yet, but we are seeing people now in the 434, 435 range, and that just kind of makes you get an easy win button in Arena. So I've seen fire variant used. I don't have fire variant, which does damage. But the wind variant, you see them everywhere in high-level PvP. She is probably the most valuable PvP unit, or at least one of, if not the most valuable PvP unit we currently have in the game. This is my current goal. I have her mine at C5. It's not enough. I need 80 Lego memory stones. Toot sweet. All right, now let's get into the A category. Now, the A, the AAA, and the S, that's where the most people start to have their issues. Again, I know if you use a hero more because of where you are in the game, you're going to want to push for that hero more. I get it. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm not perfect. This is my opinion. This is my video, my opinion. I'm just trying to give you guys some pointers. Why is Arduin at the bottom of the A list? Why is Arduin on the A list and not other rares? Well, so Arduin Wind is the hardest hitting variant of her. Arduin Fire has a little bit of a higher polymorph chance, but hits less hard. Pardon me. I need to refresh the old throat. The reason why Frost Arduin has no place on this list is because her counterattack polymorph, it attacks it attacks random targets one time, whereas the wind and fire variants attacks random targets 2 times. So there's a much higher chance to A, do damage, and B, polymorph who you're trying to go after. So I am starting to see Arduin show up more, or she's starting to peek her head out in PvP, even high-level PvP. But the polymorph is, I think the highest chance you can get is 25%. But if she's hitting you twice, it's still 25% each hit, but you're kind of effectively doubling the chance you're going to get those polymorphs. Why do I like wind? Because it hits harder, and it's just a slightly less chance. It's a 25% chance to polymorph on counterattack, or when she uses her S2. You can kind of set her up to use her S3, which is the heal, and she heals based off of attack, so you do want to build her like an attacker. But the polymorph and the damage is what really makes Arduin special, and she's She can actually do. That's why she gets a place on this thing. She does a lot. There's a lot going on in her kit. But I do give the Wind the advantage just over just because of the increased damage. Now K, I'm not going to talk about K. We all know what K does, but I have seen K used in PvP because she can really become annoying with those evasion stacks. She can hit hard, which is why she still has a place on this list. You know, she does get a place because, yes, she can hit hard. I still use K in my Penvid speed clear team because of her A1 has 5 attacks, brings the shields down, right? She's a multi-attacker. Her AoE also hits hard. Her S2 is a single target hit that hits hard. K is still useful, and she's especially useful for people at the beginning and mid-game. You know, go back in time, you'll see her used in everybody's videos earlier on. You get her in Wind, you only really need her in Wind. I don't think I've really ever seen anybody use her anywhere else outside of Wind. Sergius, Wind, okay. So you want to get Sergius, even still at this point in the game's cycle. You still want to get copies of Sergius out of the clan shop. And, arena shop. And then you want to get his fire relic out of the clan shop. There is still uses. I am still seeing people use Wind Sergius because the fire variant doesn't do damage, whereas the Wind version does do damage, but then he's reducing turn meter. He's not granting turn meter to your team. But once he puts a focus target on somebody, and at one point in his chivalries he will apply a focus target at the start of battle, he can reduce turn meter on the enemies, select enemies, while still doing damage. So that is why he is on here. I used him as soon as I unlocked him. I threw him in a team and I used him for a lot of teams. And then as soon as I got the fire relic, I've never used the Wind relic, but I have heard use of people using his Wind relic still at upper level content in this game. So that's why he's kind of right here above K. He can do a little bit more than K, in my opinion. Cloudus. I have probably been the biggest naysayer of Fire Cloudus. I have tried her in a Vigor TM strip build. I have tried to build her in an attack build. The problem with Cloudus is she's an attacker that wants to do everything. She wants to be a support. She wants to be a control. She doesn't know what she wants to do. But in my opinion, her primary purpose is to reduce turn meter. She's got an AoE turn meter reduction in her Wind and her Fire relics. I don't know if Ice does. I think Ice is more damage focused. But what she is primarily used for is TM stripping, aka Tarrasque. And I did use her in a Tarrasque 10 team until I got Fire Merlin. So I'm putting her here. She's smack dab the middle of this tier list. Like, this is like right in the middle. And that's where she belongs. Kind of right in the middle because she's a jack of all trades, master of none. I know people are going to say in the comments, I use her everywhere. Yes, I had a conversation the other day. Oh, she's so good. I use her everywhere. Do you have Betty? No. Do you have Iwerit? No. That's why. Now, these two, we're going to talk about Tristan and Arthur in the same breath. So Tristan and Arthur, and I'd say Fire Gawain, I'd also kind of put in here, are single target nukers. I just made a video this week on Forbidden Dungeon Normal Hard. Wait, Forbidden Dungeon 100 Normal Hard. Forbidden Dungeon 100 Normal using Arthur to kill the Harpy boss in 2 turns. I didn't do it in 2 turns. I got really close, but 2 turns. So we all know if you get him up to 6-star, 6 awakened, and you get his S3 maxed, it kind of has to be maxed, he can nuke a lot of things. People back in the day used to use him to take out Frost Anya in PvP. The issue now is Nika just kind of neutered the whole crit damage meta in PvP. So not used so much as a nuker in PvP, Although if you run into a team that does not have Nika, you can. But he is used in other places in the game in that nuking role. Like, it's just the first 2 turns that he goes, he's just out there to do massive chunks of damage. And that's kind of like Tristan as well. Tristan's also basically, I think he is the best first turn nuker in the game. And then he kind of falls off a little bit until all of his passives reset. And then he's got a huge nuke on that S3 as well. Kind of like Arthur, right? So, and they're both in the wind element. So that's why they're kind of here in the A. I have seen Tristan used more and more for that role as the game has evolved. And Arthur, I remember when the game first started out and everyone said, don't build Arthur. Well, don't build Arthur in the Fire Relic. It's the Wind Relic, which you get really early in the story campaign. As soon as you get that Wind Relic, focus everything into Wind Relic. You will still be using him at endgame. All right, Vivian. Vivian is another hero that I have naysayed a lot. I finally just got my Vivian. And why she is still considered an A unit in my eyes is because you can use her on Gorgos. She is a legendary healer, which are in short supply. We have 3. And you can use her in the Podridge dungeon, right? She's part of a team with Lancelot and Charlotte and Fire Anya to clear that thing more consistently. The issue is you need your Vivian around C8. Like, she is good for what she has been built for. And I've seen her used in Clan Boss. I've seen her used in Podridge. I've seen her used in Gorgos. But you can kind of plug and play. So if you get her early in the game and you don't get Jillian, I would say you can, since she's an AoE healer, which is nice. She's kind of a mix. She does lots of things. Like, she's kind of a Turin in a way because of her AoE healing on the S2. But then she's also will convert dots. So if you're going into a team or into a battle where they're applying dots to you, aka Podridge's Sanctuary, you can convert those dots to heal over time, which is again kind of like Turin. But if you don't bring her into a dot battle, you need her C8 to actually apply the dots to your team herself to then convert over to a heal over time. And you need to have heal over times on your units in order to reduce their passives, which is a big part of her kit. So she has a lot of if-then statements in her kit, which is why she's only A and not triple A or S, like you see Turin and Jillian up here. So I think this is a fair place for her on this tier list. Now let's talk about Charlotte. So, Charlotte is currently residing in Loki's dungeon. We all know that. But at C10, C8, C9, I don't know why I put them in that order, I have seen her do some mean things. Like, I'm talking one turn wipe, like wipe the board. Single turn, first turn, nuke the entire board with her S3. Once I saw that, I was just like, whoa. Like, when she came out, the game advertised her as the single highest damage AoE unit in the game. And she is. The issue is you need her up there, like C9. You need her decked out in that Ascension gear. You need some good old big multipliers on her. She can do tons of damage. I've seen it. I've seen the video proof. And she is a required unit for one of the teams on the Podridge 10 team. So I've seen her used in PvP. I've seen her used in PvE. She does have the capacity to do huge numbers. The issue is the vast majority of us, we're not going to have her at C9, C10 anywhere soon. And as well, I would also say that her ideal relic is the Fire Relic. The Wind Relic, not so much. Wind Relic can be used okay in PvP. Obviously, Wind is going to be good against Ice heroes. So if they have like a Frost Anya, which, yeah, I guess you can see, or a Frost Ilret. Cool, they're going to wipe them, but Fire is probably more, it is more ideal. The Fire Relic is the ideal one to use, and at the time of her release, you can only get that by spending money. So for now, I'm just going to put Charlotte down here in the A category. I'm going to give her the top of the A category for potential, but really I could make an argument for Tristan being above her early. But once you get them in late game, once you get at max, Charlotte is definitely she is an AoE nuker, whereas Tristan and Arthur are single target nukers. Okay, let's shift the old camera angle. Let's get my noggin out of here, so that we can talk about the top 3 rows. Okay, what are we at? 35 minutes. I told you this was long. Is this going to be an hour-long video? Sorry. Because now we're talking about the most important ones. Okay. Sarah. Does Sarah still deserve a spot in the AAA category? Sarah, her primary use is buff block and attack gauge disruption. Does she have uses? Yes. Is she a healer? Yes. Is she good for early game? Yes. But there are other heroes good for early game. Kay is good for early game. But the issue is Sarah has a little bit of more use case, or places to be used, or use cases at endgame. So you can use her in Yaskelhaig. I think I have her in my Yaskelhaig video. You can use Frost Sarah in Yaskelhaig 10 in the dungeon. You can use Fire Sarah in Tarask to apply buff disruption or attack gauge disruption on the body. You can use her in PvP because she prevents serpents, or she prevents anybody from gaining turn meter. She buffs or blocks turn meter gains in PvP. So I think I will leave her at the end of this list for now. She may fall down a little bit as the game evolves, just like Cormac has. So Cormac, prior to this morning, I had him up here in the S category, because we all know Frost Cormac does insane AoE damage. I have seen Frost Cormac in Master 1 of PvP, in the Colosseum. I have seen him used, well, we used him everywhere when we were leveling. If you didn't have a Bedivere, you could use Cormac, because he does do insane damage. But keep in mind, you have to have his S3 maxed, and you have to have his Frost Relic. Kind of like Wind Arthur. Kind of the same kind of vibe. But since it was AoE damage, so Frost Cormac is a weaker version of Charlotte. The issue is he's capable of more damage at lower chivalries than Charlotte is at lower chivalries, I think. And you can use him more places. So we all know what Cormac does. We all know his kit. I got a video out on Cormac highlighting him, showing him off. But I didn't feel like he still deserved that S category if I wasn't going to give the next two in this list, Anguish and Rosie, a place on that S category as well. So that's Cormac. I'm sorry if he's your boy. He's the king of the Irish. Good old Irish Springs, whatever else. Cormac, O'Hanley, O'Brien. Now I just pissed off all the Irish people. But yeah, I'm putting him here now because, you don't use him other than PvP. I haven't seen him used anywhere at like end game. I'm talking high level PvP. I'm talking, although I have, or high level clan boss. You're not going to use him in a high level clan boss. You just won't. Whereas Anguish, Frost Anguish, Fire Rosie, they are like, when the game first started, people were singing their praises. Rosie, everyone loved Rosie. So I'm going to talk about Rosie and Anguish in the same breath because they fill the same roles. Although Rosie has far more dot capacity because she also has the ability to extend dots. Anguish has the ability to reduce the resistance to dots. So they really go hand in hand. But dots do so much damage to clan bosses from 25 to 29. At 30, the bosses are dot resistant, but they can single-handedly, and I've done this, they can single-handedly solo a boss. Like Gorgos, they can solo, but you always want to get the limbs down first. But I think I soloed with these two on a team. The body of Dragon, I think it was level 27 or level 28. Just loading them up with so many dots, and then the dragon just fell over. They are capable of so much damage because dots don't care how beefy you are. They're going to take 5% of your max HP regardless. So as soon as they added that extra levels to clan boss, Rosie, Lancelot, and Anguish became so much better and more important in this game. And yeah, that's why they're AAA. They do so much damage. And dots are becoming a thing. Dots were always a thing, but they're becoming more of a thing. We've seen that with the Podridge dungeon as well. Although you're not going to use Anguish or Rosie at high level Harpy dungeon. You're just not. They're going to die too quickly. But I think Clan Boss 25 to 29 is where they really just shine, and they shine brightly. Now we're getting into Lot. Now, Lot Fire. So Lot Fire. Where's my mouse? Okay. My mouse is 2 screens over, and I'm looking at my right monitor, whereas my mouse is over on my left monitor, and then I got the game up in the middle monitor. So, Lot Fire is probably the best control unit in the game. Why? Because he's not just CCing you. He's not just going to CC the enemy. He is going to brainwash the enemy and make the enemy damage their own team. In some cases, in some fights, it is the only mechanic you want. It is the only mechanic you need, because there are some fights that they put in the game where they hit so hard that if you get hit, you get wiped, and you need Lot Fire to control those bosses. Oh, it's got something right in here. Pardon me. So that's why Lot still gets the place up here at AAA. Plus, Lot Fire is the key to getting past Forbidden Dungeon Normal Floor 93, those shamans, because his S3 is an AoE Oblivion, which nullifies passives. So it just makes 93 easy, like just completely easy. And if you don't have him, then it becomes a little bit of a slog because you got to use CCs, and then you can't break the CCs. It just makes it a little bit more difficult. But Lot Fire still deserves the spot up here in AAA for how clutch it comes in when you need it. Sigrun Fire. Okay. So Sigrun Fire, we all know what she does. She's the Mark Queen. She's the Queen of Yaskelhag. You will use Sigrun in high-level Yaskelhag clan bosses. You will use her right up until stage 30. Sigrun, you can use Fire Sigrun in PvP. If you pair her with Iwaret, you can do some nasty things. And she is, if you get her up to C8 and she's got that Queen's counter up at all times, she's a powerful unit. She's not going to be, like, kicking in any doors and, like, mowing the whole team down like Charlotte. But C8 Sigrid is capable of doing some nasty things. In the same breath, so is Clarison. So I kind of want to talk about these two together. They're both serpents. We don't use Sigrun as much in PvP anymore because other serpents have come along and kind of displaced her. But for a while there, she was a really great PvP unit. You still need her. You can use her in PvP early. You still need her in end-game clan boss. You can use her in endgame Yaskelhag 10. You can just use her in so many places. This is why I'm still giving her the spot on this list. But it's going to get difficult for me to keep her in this spot versus Charlotte as time goes on and Charlotte becomes a little bit more. As soon as Charlotte goes into the main pool, people have her more, Charlotte's going to move up. But since she's still so brand new, Sigrun's going to dominate her for now, or displace her for now on the tier list. Clarison, kind of the same thing. So Clarison is one of those units, kind of like Lot at the beginning of the game when the game came out, as if when people pulled her, they were actually disappointed. Clarison has some obscenely high base speed numbers. You can use her very, very fast on a, say, like a Lance team in PvP, or you can just even build her for speed and use her in other dungeon teams. And her S2 is a more of a support role, but it speeds up your entire team and gives them crit damage up buffs. So you can use her, you can pair her with like Iwaret, you can pair her with Betty, you can pair her with a lot of people to really get you the jump on a dungeon, on an opponent, in PvP, dungeon, everywhere. In her Fire Relic, I don't have her Frost Relic yet, but her Frost Relic is the damage relic. And if I got her Frost Relic, I would probably slot her in right in here with the Tristan, Arthur, Fire, Gawain. I wouldn't put her up here because I find she has more utility in the fire as a speed battery than you get out of her with as a damage dealer, as a nuker. I think nukers are limited. They're limited in their roles, which is why I would put the Frost one right in here. I don't know if I'd put it above Tristan. I'd probably put it in between Tristan and Arthur. But Fire Clarison is becoming increasingly decent for a lot of content, just for that AoE, because she can do okay damage. I have seen Clarison used in high-level PvP as well, in Master 2 and Master 1, so she can be a PvP unit as well. Clarison is one of those things, she does a lot of things really well, kind of like Sigrun, but she doesn't do things extremely well. But I do think I like her utility more than Cloudus, which is, like, Cloudus is a jack of all trades, master of none, kind of like Clarison Fire as well, but I think I get better results out of Clarison's kit than Cloudus's kit. Guinevere. Oh, Guinevere. Okay. Why does Guinevere deserve the AAA spot? Well, first off, let's start with the easy one. If you don't have Guinevere, you are going to struggle profusely in Cromcrotch, and you need to be farming. So I still farm Cromcrotch from the story mode a lot for those advancement materials that you get. I think it's for relics. I think it's relic advancement materials to get him to stage 6. So I do farm that quite a bit. There's other stuff in Cromcrotch 10, like for Hell 10. There's other stuff in there too, why we do want to be farming him. But where Guinevere really shines is PvP. She is probably one of the greatest defensive units for PvP. She is in my PvP defense team right now, and she has a role on one of the top 2, in my opinion, the top 2 best PvP, sorry if I said PvE, PvP teams in the game currently. She prevents CC for an extended period of time. She mitigates damage, and she's hard to kill herself. So Guinevere, I still think, deserves this spot. A, for being a requirement in high-level Cromcrotch, and then B, for being a high-level PvP toon in her own right. Or hero. I know some people don't like her or get triggered when I say toon. That's why she's here. That's why she's here. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Turin. Okay. Turin. I debated dropping Turin this month down to the AAA class, but I couldn't. For you beginning and mid-game unit or people, this is wind Turin specifically. For you beginning and mid-game players, don't sleep on Turin. She is one of the best healers, best supporters, best buffers still in this game. She is unfortunately not used by me anymore because, unfortunately, as soon as we got Nika, the use cases for Turin were quickly displaced. If you don't have Nika, Turin is going to be your girl for the AoE healing and all the buffs that she brings to your allies. But if you have Nika, then, you know, you're going to use Turin way, way, way less. Specifically Wind Turin. Fire Turin, obviously, is still used in PvP. But I'm still going to leave her on here for now, just given how good she is in the beginning to mid-game category, even end-game if you don't have Nika. But that's it. You guys know what Turin brings to the field. She's just so defense up. I think she increases your health pool. Hots, heals, big S3 heal, super hots on her S2. She's just a really, still a really good unit. It's just she's use cases are falling off. You know, there's some legendaries that are stealing her shine, stealing her glory. Jillian, okay. Does Jillian still deserve a spot on this list? Yes. So, first of all, Jillian's lead, much like Nika lead, is that she gives 20% increased HP, which is good in PvP. I still use her as a lead in my tank PvP team, my defense team. You know, that's usually like Guinevere, Jillian, Anya, X. If you're not using Nika in a speed lead team, then you can have Nika in that team as well. But otherwise, you're going to fill the holes with someone like Arduin or someone like Fire Turin. But, you know, you still can't discount the fact that Jillian still has all of the turn meter manipulation. You know, just kind of like Lot is a vigor manipulation on both sides of the battlefield. Jillian still has that insane turn meter or attack gauge manipulation on both sides of the battlefield as well. Plus, she also has some anti-CC in her kit. She will strip abnormal status immunities, which are really helpful as well. She's still a great healer, great support unit. I'd say she's arguably still a fantastic support unit, not so much a healer, even though she does heal really well. But again, since Nika came into the picture, it's taken a lot of the shine away from what made Frost Jillian so good. And the reason why everyone loved Frost Jillian was because then that made her an AoE healer. Arguably, though, it was still RNG. It was like a 35% chance to do AoE heals, whereas Nika just does the big, chunky AoE heals every time. She uses her S3 regardless of what relic you have her in. So Jillian, she still, I think, deserves a spot on this S list. But, again, much like Turin, the shine has been stripped a little by the introduction of Nika. Merlin. Okay. Fire Merlin. Fire Merlin is a key character in Clan Boss Tarask 25. Arguably below 25. Clan Boss Tarask, let's just say, right from beginning to end, right, all 30 stages. Fire Merlin he is the easy button for Tarask. I'm not going to explain why, he just is. Ice Merlin, I struggle to put Ice Merlin on this list when I've gone up against a good one, because Ice Merlin he has lots of good CC, but I think it's like a 55% chance, whereas Frost Lancelot kind of does the same thing. So maybe I should put Frost Merlin down here in PvP, but then no, because the reason why Frost Lancelot is so good in PvP is because of his speed lead in PvP. I don't know. You guys tell me. Do you think Merlin still deserves a spot in the S list? Because I can make an argument for the fire variant. I can make an argument for the wind variant for PvP, kind of. But I know if you get him early, if you get his Frost early and you get that S3 maxed, the control is nice. The control is nice. It's just there's so many ways now just to not have to worry about control. I don't know. You tell me. I'm on the fence whether he should be here versus other heroes in this game. I don't know if Frost Merlin specifically has this spot, if he still deserves this spot. Fire Merlin, we discussed, he does, because of what he brings to Tarask. He makes Tarask an easy mode. Just easy mode, easy, kill him quick, kill him efficiently, kill him every time. And Tarask is still one of the harder of the power-up dungeons. Fire Sergius, don't have to explain why. I have a whole video just on Fire Sergius. It is a cheat code. It is a broken mechanic. It is used to clear insanely hard content in Forbidden Dungeon hard mode. It's used in PvP. It is used in clan bosses. He's still used everywhere. Not as much as he was 2 months to a month ago, but he's still used very, very, very much. He still definitely deserves the spot on this list. Why do I have Fire Lancelot at the top of the S tier? Okay. Required on the 2 Podridge teams, or at least one. I use him in my Podridge, Porridge, Harpy. I have him used there. He is a needed hero for me to clear that dungeon. And he, because of the dot mechanics in that dungeon. Fire Merlin is one of the only universal speed leads in this game. Fire Merlin makes Gorgos easy mode. So he's used in two dungeons, an equipment dungeon and a power-up dungeon. He is used in the clan boss Tarask because you need him to beat the speed of the arms with a Fire Morgan. You need him, or he is a valuable, much like Anguish and Rosie, why they have their spots on the AAA. Lancelot has the same reason for him being in the S, because the dots are so powerful in high-level content in this game. So he is good in clan boss dungeons for his speed lead. He's good for dots. He's good for 2 dungeons. He's required in the current endgame dungeon, which is why he gets an S tier ranking. Now let's talk about the heavies, the God tier, the triple S in this game. I used to have Frost Iwaret in the S tier, but now with this current banner, at the time of this recording, with the current banner that's up, a lot of people now have very easy access to high-level Iwaret. If you're buying the 100th day packs that come out daily, you have an obscene amount of crystals, which allows you to get a very, very high-level Iwaret. Now, Ice, not as good as Fire, but Ice still does insane single-target damage. Equivalent to Bedivere, which is why Bedivere is right beside him, and sandwiched in between the 2 versions of Iwaret. But Iwaret Frost, single target damage, good damage. But since they are less plug and play than Bedivere, it's the reason why they get the last spot behind Frost Bedivere on this list. So Bedivere Frost and Iwaret Fire Frost are the best damage dealers currently in the game. Overall, usable, not just single target first turn nukes, but consistent high damage dealers. But like I said, since the Frost version is a little bit less plug and play than Bedivere Frost, that's why Iwaret Frost is last on the list. Bedivere Frost, I used to have him as the best hero in the game, hands down, king of the game. But now, with the addition of Iwaret, with the addition of Nika, who is stealing some of his thunder in PvP with her ability to nerf crits, crit resist, Bedivere has dropped down to here. Still a great damage dealer, but I cannot make an argument for him to be above any of the other people in the triple S category. Great damage dealer, plug and play viability. You can put him in any team, do a lot of damage, and he just slays. So Bedivere still does what he does, but PvP's been nerfed a little because of the crit resist that Nika brought to the table. Fire Iwaret, the game gave you the Fire Relic for free. All you had to do was grind that event dungeon, and you got it for free. And it is a monster nuker. It does such insane damage. Once you get Iwaret to C8, C9, it does such insane damage. And I don't know if I even have Bedivere on many of my dungeon teams anymore. Iwaret Fire just does so much damage. I had to give it give them the spot over Frost Bedivere. All right, Nika. I'm not going to explain Nika. Enough said. It's Nika. Best AoE healer in the game. She's really, really tanky. I like her HP lead a lot, much like Jillian has. She's used in so many teams. She's used in the tank PvP team. She's used in the tank or the speed PvP team. She's used in every single dungeon in the game. She just does such good AoE healing. The Frost version is ideally better. I would put Frost above Fire in this list, but there are uses for Fire. You need Fire Nika in one of the Padarj, Harpy, Porridge 10 teams in the game, which is the hardest current equipment dungeon. Nika is she is the best healer in the game now, hands down, no questions asked, which is why she has this spot on the Triple S section of this tier list. Now let's talk about the top two. We're going to talk about the top two in kind of aggregate. So first, Anya. Anya, I slept on her. Once you get her to C4, she does so much stuff in this game. So S2 Fire Anya clears debuffs. S2 Frost Anya gives attack buffs. S2 Wind Anya, I can't say off the top of my head. I just know that in PvP and in a lot of places in this game, Wind or Storm does the most damage. So like I said, Frost is more about buffing your attackers on your team, but also does really good damage on counterattack. Fire Anya is required for the Padarj, Porridge 10 team, much like Nika, much like Lancelot, Charlotte, those heroes. Fire, I feel, the main role for Fire is in Padarj 10 or Padarj Dungeon. Frost is used everywhere in the game, especially if you want to beef up your attackers on your team, if she is not the attacker herself. But Wind alone does so much damage by itself. She doesn't even have to move. You build her with no speed. You just load her up with attack. Whereas, someone like Morgan, it's all about speed. Anya, you have 0 speed, and she would still do everything you want her to do. Buff your heroes, do damage, just nuke entire teams down. Like, you know what Anya does. She is hands down the number. Still, I would say the number 2. Ooh, it's getting up there though. I would have to say, in order of operations, it's Morgan still best hero in the game. Morgan, Anya, Nika, Iwaret. There it is. Argue. Tell me I'm wrong. But Anya, I don't know. I can't sing her praises enough. I am ranking her as such. Wind first, then Frost, then Fire. Wind, damage everywhere. Frost, usability everywhere. Fire, best in slot for Padarj 10. All right, Anya, just such a great unit. Just gets better too. She's still everywhere, and you just hate seeing her in a PvP team when you're going up against her. And Morgan, the first legendary you're going to get in the game, still the best legendary in the game. I always struggle to pick out which relic is the best, but I am going to say it on this month's tier list. The Storm Relic, Wind Relic, the best relic in the game for the S2 and the S3. Fire Relic, which is the one she comes in, you're going to love her as an early game, mid game player, or you still use it in many, many places in the game. But the Fire Relic is all about turn meter reduction, or turn meter stripping, attack gauge stripping on the enemy. Whereas Frost is more about getting out that first turn nuke with your damage dealer. Frost strips buffs, which is really, really nice as well if you want to use it on the S2. A lot of people are going to say Frost should be above Fire for PvP reasons, but I'm still going to give Fire and Frost equal footing. And I'm going to give Fire the edge just based on the fact that you don't have to pull the Fire Relic versus the Frost Relic. Wind Relic, though, for what it does, the AoE CC, AoE double defense down, it's bar none. It's head and shoulders above the rest. You need the Wind Relic in the Padarsh 10 dungeon as well, which is the current endgame equipment dungeon. Oh, she's just so good. Wind and Frost are PvP for different reasons. Oh, Morgan. Still love my Morgan. You know, everyone, you know, it's a lot of times it used to be fastest Morgan wins. Now it's actually fastest Ceres wins. But if you don't have Ceres C9, then you're going to want to focus speed on Morgan. And faster, the better. Everything she does in her kit is just so integral to being successful in this game. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I went over an hour. If you are still here after an hour and 5 minutes, you're legends. You're legends. I think I've used this before on this list, but the code word, the safe word of the day, if you've made it through an hour, is legends. I know it's long. I'm sorry. But it just requires so much dissection that these videos are just going to get longer and longer and longer. And this is one of my most successful monthly videos I do each month. So I'm not sorry. I am all about the in-depth, long-form discussion. I would not say I'm the Joe Rogan of King Arthur King Arthur Legends Rise. Wow, did I just screw that one up? But there we go. That's the code of the day, Joe Rogan, because I'm the Joe Rogan of King Arthur. Just for the fact that I drone on and on and on and on and on and on. All right, so put Legends or Joe Rogan, whatever you want to put down in the comment section below. That'll let me know that you made it to the end of this video. I hope that this was somewhat accurate. I hope that you can take some stuff away from this. Feel free to say in the comments as well arguments for placements. But keep in mind, I've got a lot of caveats when I'm arranging heroes in this thing. Like a new hero like Charlotte has a lower ranking just based on the fact that we have no way to easily get higher chivalries. But once you get higher chivalries, there is some potential. So I do factor her placement also do on potential. I factor heroes based on where I am in the game. I try to make a little bit of justifications for early game, mid game people. I'm trying to make the most accurate tier list. But since this game is structured in so many different ways, you can't just go like triple S, triple A, triple B, C. You can't, because there are niche uses for each hero. Like there's so many complex interactions in this game for all the heroes that really it requires some long form discussion, which is why I do this. So ladies and gentlemen, put whatever safe word you want in the comment section below. Thank you very, very, very much for making it to the end of this video. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I got to find my mouse, which is 2 screens away. Till next time, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers, peace. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.